Support Name Explain on Patreon for ad-free videos, exclusive podcasts and blog posts, and to help choose what names get explained. Click the link in the description. Despite being the worldwide phenomenon it is today, the London Underground actually had a bit of a rocky start, quite literally as rocks and dirt had to be excavated all the way back in 1843 to create the world's first under-river tunnel. This tunnel was created by Sir Mark Brunel and his son Isambard, who would go on to become quite a big deal. This tunnel would initially be simply for transporting cargo easily across the river. However, due to financial issues, this idea could not be fully realised. So instead of moving cargo, it moved people across, becoming the city's #1 tourist attraction. This tourism money would go on to fund further construction and interest in an underground network of trains across the city. On the 7th of January 1869, the first steam train travelled in the underground. While this sounds impressive, a steam train bellowing out smoke underground without proper ventilation was unsurprisingly a terrible idea. By 1890, however, electric rails were in use and the first full line was open in London, running from William Street in the centre of London all the way down to Stockwell in the southwest of the city. From here, the London Underground expanded into what it is to this day. However, it's not often you hear it referred to as the London Underground. More often than not, the locals use its nickname of the Tube. This nickname simply comes from the tube-like shape of the tunnels that the trains run through. This name seems to have emerged pretty quickly. As mentioned, the first electric railway in London opened in 1890, and we have evidence of the nickname of the Tube being used as early as 1900. It was in August of this year that a newspaper ran a headline saying, "The Tube and the Bus," referring to the competition between London's two iconic modes of transport. In its over 100-year history, however, the Tube has expanded quite dramatically. Today, the official number of stops on the London Underground is listed as 270, with these stops being split across 11 different lines. Some of these underground stations have gone on to become some of the most popular destinations in London unto themselves, and their names have become known across the land. Names like Waterloo, King's Cross, Oxford Circus and Victoria are almost just as known as the name London itself. Though this is just 4 of the 270 names that grace the London Underground, it seems that not all the stations of the Tube are blessed with equally iconic or elegant names. The United Kingdom as a whole is known for a lot of things, and one of those things is of course the silly, funny, strange and rude sounding place names that grace the country. On a usual trip across the UK, you will most likely come across at least one town, village or street with a name that will make you raise an eyebrow, and some of the names on the London Underground are no exception from this. Some of the names you will hear announced during your travels on the Underground will range from usual to odd to just a bit rude. So while one day I'd love to look into how all these stations got their names, today I want to highlight some of the stranger names you'll come across as you explore London while going underground. You don't need to travel that far out the centre of London to find odd station names. In fact, one of London's most central stations has a rather bemusing name, that being Piccadilly Circus. Both parts of this name are rather odd. Piccadilly is just a really fun word to say, and circus gives off the image of clowns and performing animals. You will not however find any circuses of this kind in this busy part of central London. Circus actually dates back to Latin. In Latin, circus meant ring/circular. Entertainment circuses acquired this name as they are circular in shape. Another thing that can be called a circus is a rounded road where various other roads meet. There are other circuses of this sense across London, including the nearby Oxford Circus. So what about the Piccadilly part of this name? Well, before being the name of a London station, a Piccadilly was the name of the large ruffled collars which were immensely popular across the 16th and 17th century in Britain. Robert Baker was a London tailor who became so wealthy from making Piccadilles, amongst other garments, that he was able to construct a grand house in this location in 1611. While he was wealthy, London's elite didn't quite see Robert as one of their own, as he made his fortune from the lowly art of tailoring. To mock him, his estate was known as Piccadilly Hall, which over time evolved into Piccadilly Circus as we have today. Further out in Greater London's east we have Barking. While this town is now part of Greater London, it is historically seen as a part of the county of Essex. What I find so odd about this name is at first it seems that this part of London is named after the sounds dogs make when they are excited to see you. As great as it would be, Barking is not named after the barking of dogs, though I'm sure there is plenty of barking in Barking. The earliest recording we have of this name has it as Berasingas, and this name is thought to either come from an ancient local chieftain who resided here called Beraka, or it simply means the settlement by birch trees. The Dockland Light Railway, known as the DLR, is something of a black sheep on the underground map. While it is on the map with the rest of them, the majority of the line isn't actually underground, so while some may be angry I'm including them in this video, others will understand why. Plus, I could not miss the opportunity to mention the name of Mudchute, which is a station on the DLR. This name is pretty odd as it relates to mud, something places do not tend to be named after. However, for the dirty-minded amongst you, I'm sure it's not too hard to connect the term Mudchute to a certain part of the body. Mudchute, as well as the larger area of London of Mudchute in general, are named after Mudchute Farm and Park, which is unsurprisingly a farm and a park. This farm got its name as in the past it was a dumping ground for mud from the nearby docks. The chute part of this name comes from the fact that kind of pump / chute was used to transport the mud from the docks to the farm. While this park and farm seem rather pleasant today, that unpleasant name has stuck around on this area and its tube station. Another DLR station I have to talk about is Pudding Mill Lane. Pudding is just a funny word, isn't it? Pudding Mill Lane Station is named after the nearby Pudding Mill Lane, which is named after a nearby water mill called St Thomas's Mill. This mill was also known as Pudding Mill as supposedly it was shaped like a pudding. How it would have looked like a pudding exactly I'm not too sure. However, another name it went by in the past was Knob Mill, probably due to its shape once again. Perhaps we should be thankful that the name Pudding Mill rather than Knob Mill stood the test of time. There are tube stations named after other parts of the world. Some of these aren't too odd, like Liverpool Street. A station being named after another English city seems acceptable. However, things get a little bit more strange with the likes of Swiss Cottage Station. Why is a part of the United Kingdom's capital named after cottages from the notoriously neutral nation of Switzerland? This is not only the name of the station, but its surrounding area too. This name derives from an inn called the Swiss Tavern that was built in 1804. This tavern was built in the style of a Swiss chalet. Later on, however, the inn's name was changed from Swiss Tavern to Swiss Cottage, and from there the name stuck around. This goes to show just how some of these iconic and prestigious areas of London can be named after something as simple as a pub. There's another tube station named after somewhere that's even further than Switzerland. That's been the station with the title of East India. And yes, this is another DLR station, so not technically part of the tube, I know. This station is named after the former East India docks. These docks were specially constructed for trading with East India. Luckily, they're in the east of London too. So yes, you can technically be in the city of London in the UK and be in East India at the exact same time. There's also the West Indian Quay station, but their name isn't as to the point as East India is. Have you ever wanted to live somewhere named after a specific kind of wood being burnt? Well, if you ever had, then you are in luck, as Greater London has the perfect station for you, that being none other than the station of Burnt Oak in the north of Greater London. Burnt Oak is a rather strange name for a place and station, and we don't seem to know where exactly this name came from. One idea has it relating to an old method the Romans used to designate the boundaries of their territories. That would be by burning down trees and using their charred stumps as boundary markers. A simple, though not entirely environmentally friendly way of claiming land. As London has Roman roots, this idea makes some sense. However, the earliest recording we have of this name is from only 1754, which while yes is a long time ago for us, it was well over 1,000 years after the Romans were in Britain. Though if there's one tube station that gets more giggles than others, it would have to be the station of Cockfosters. I'm sure you can understand why so many find this name so funny. This area of London was once home to an 8,000-acre Royal Park home. Obviously, a home this grand would need its own staff, including the likes of woodcutters to deal with all the trees. And the old title for the chief forester was a cock forester. Why this was the case, however, I am not too sure. The head forester, or cock forester, would have had their own house on the grounds, and this house would have been known as the Cockforesters. Over time, this area was named after this house, and the name evolved into Cockfosters. Here's hoping this entry didn't get this video demonetized. One of the funnest to say names in all of London has to be Pimlico, an area in central London. As fun as this name is, however, we don't seem to be too sure where exactly it comes from. The popular legend is that it comes from one Ben Pimlico, a supposed 17th century alehouse and tea garden owner who set up shop in this part of London. This is just a theory, however. Another idea is that it comes from the Pimlico natives of North America, who supposedly exported timber to this part of London. Both ideas are quite peculiar, that's for sure, almost as peculiar as the name of Pimlico, though perhaps the most popular odd underground name has to be Elephant and Castle, two words that aren't that strange on their own, but create a very odd image in one's mind when put together. This station and the wider area of London got its name from a pub once again. Never underestimate the importance of pubs in London. How the old Elephant and Castle pub got its name, however, seems to be a bit of a mystery. There are a handful of ideas as to where this name came from. This pub was around in at least 1765, and some theorise that the elephant in the name is an ode to a line in Shakespeare's comedy The Twelfth Night. The line goes, "In the south suburbs, at the Elephant, is best to lodge," so someone thought it would be fitting to have somewhere called the Elephant where you could actually lodge. One other idea has it relating to the Worshipful Company of Cutlers, a group of sword and knife crafters, whose crest featured none other than an elephant holding a castle. Whatever the case, Elephant and Castle is definitely one amongst the many of stranger names that are dotted on the London Underground. The London Underground was suggested by Adam J. Styles, and thanks to their suggestion, they will now be honoured as Name Explain's patron saint of the London Underground. Do you have a good idea for somewhere that's name could be covered in a Name Explain video? If so, then please consider donating on Patreon. Just $1 a month helps keep the channel running and earns you a weekly chance to suggest somewhere to be turned into a video, and you too could be a Name Explain Patreon saint. Thank you to all my patrons who support Name Explain on a monthly basis. Patreon is vital to Name Explain, and donating just $2 a month allows you to enjoy ad-free videos and bonus Patreon exclusive content. It also allows you to help choose what names get explained in upcoming videos, and gets your name here with all these awesome people. Thank you so much for all the support you guys give Name Explain. Thank you so much for reaching the end of the video. Check out another video and subscribe to stay in the loop on all things Name Explain. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram where I'm Name Explain YT, and also join the Facebook group Friends of Name Explain, both of which will be linked down below. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video, and once again, thank you all so much.